Good afternoon everyone, welcome to TexasHold'emQuestions.com. A little bit different video we're doing today. Rather than record live tournament videos or sit and goes, what I've decided to do is do a little video on hand selection in tournaments and how it differs based on your stack size. Now this is no hard and fast rules on pre-flop hand selection, but we get a lot of our players, they do like a guide, because using your own discretion at times, you're quite biased by the moment. So people like to have a guide of, the kind of hands they should be playing, depending on their stack size. And that's a concept lost on a lot of, beginners and even intermediate players. Is they don't adjust their hand selection based on their stack size or the point of the tournament, or sometimes even, the caliber of player and things like that. So we'll spend a bit of time today talking about hand selection and how it differs based on your stack size and your position. So, there are two variables that are very key to the hands you play and when you enter a pot. So, straight off the bat, we're going to be talking about 4 different stack sizes here. Now, for the purpose of tournaments, I'm going to say that 30 big blinds or more, we're going to consider that, relatively deep stacked. Obviously, if you're playing cash game poker, 30 big blinds is in no way a deep stack. But for tournaments, if you're sitting with 30 big blinds, quite often you're usually quite happy. Unless you're playing, a really expensive live tournament, but certainly online and a lot of live tournaments you're going to play 30 big blinds and up, deep stacked. The next sector is 20 to 29 big blinds. A bit more tricky area because you don't have those implied odds that you will have with more than 30 big blinds necessarily. You don't quite have the flexibility, I don't feel, to be opening wide from early position as well. 20 to 29, we'll also be doing the 11 to 19 or 10 to 19, whichever way you want to look at it, which is that, you're starting to get close. You've got a good reshoves type stack. Again, you're not really in a position to be calling raises very easily. You probably will occasionally from the big blind, depending when it's min raises and such like, but you're not really deep stack. And then obviously 0 to 10, I'm just treating them all. Obviously there's a difference between 4 big blinds and 9, and I'm going to assume that all the viewers are going to understand the difference there. So, but I can't go through every single big blind specific level. So we're grouping them into the 4 categories that I've just mentioned. So first of all, if you're deep stacked and you've got 30 big blinds, what kind of hand should be open and what position? Again, this is just, I'm not one for saying, look, you have to play this hand in this position and this one you can't. This is just purely a guide that quite often I'll send out to tournament players. So straight off the bat, we know early position. You're going to be playing aces, kings, queens, jacks. I've put in all the pairs there. I think if you're deep stacked, why not? You can play all the pairs, open them from early. The beauty of that is that, people won't often put you on that. So if you've caught, if you've got pocket fives and it's kind of 3, 4, 6 and you've got the open-ended and the pair and you bet, quite often you're getting, sometimes people are calling down with an ace queen, or, they'll re-raise you not thinking you're strong and you can play the hand even stronger. So, for instance, someone might have 2 8s in that scenario, raise you, and you're deciding, I'm going to go with this, and you jam, and they'll fold. It's quite often a better hand like 8s, 9s, 10s, when you've got good equity, and they'll have to put you on aces or kings. That's obviously a very isolated incident, but the point I'm trying to make is you can get away with playing early pairs, I think, if you're a competent player from early position. You'll notice even deep stacked, I'm not a big advocate of opening these suited aces too often from early position if you're a learning player. Now, this is a kind of a case of do as I say, not as I do type thing, but I'm saying, look, if you want a guide, generally, you don't want to be playing ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4 suited from, under the gun, +1, because generally you've got the positional disadvantage, as I've said in many of my videos. So to compensate that, you really do need the strong hands. Now, that can make you exploitable, you could say, because people know you aren't going to open those hands, but that's so, obtuse thinking, because you have to play with someone a lot for them to know that you're not opening those hands. Do you realise how, for people to say that that's exploitable is not necessary. It's not completely true to a certain extent. So yeah, you will notice the hands I put in there are the obvious ones. The big, strong suited aces. I think king, queen suited and king, jack suited, they're strong enough as well. You can be playing those. But the offsuit ones, so the king, queen off, the king, jack off, I've not put them in under the gun +1. I think, as a learning player, they're just not particularly profitable, because what you'll often find is you're opening hands that people have you dominated with, and you're out of position as well to boot, so not great scenarios to have. You'll notice from mid position, obviously it opens up, so if you look at the chart here, what it basically means is any hand that's in the previous category is included in the next one. So, for instance, you look at mid position there, all the blue and all the yellow will be open from there. So from mid position, you could throw in, this is where now, okay, you've folded out the early positions out of the way, so there's a reasonable opportunity here for you to either pick up the blinds, or you can have position on the small blind and the big blind. Now, what I will say is you need to consider who's in the cutoff and who's in the bottom when you open these hands, but personally, I think these are deep stacked. I think these are profitable hands to be opening. All the suited aces are in there, the suited connectors, the 8-9 suited, 6-7 suited, the paint cards, the Queen 10, the Jack 10 off. These are hands when you're deep stacked. That's perfectly fine to be opening that. And then you move to the late position cutoff and button. You'll notice I put in mid position 3. Some people like to call that the hijack. I'm putting that as mid position, not late position. So late position, I'm purely considering the cutoff and the button. And there, there's just a wide range of hands there. When you're deep stacked, you just need, by all means, open all the suited kings, the queens, the suited jacks. You'll even notice 5, 7 off, 4, 6 off. All these connectors become profitable. And the beauty of it as well is, if you get played back and you want to fold, you've invested very little, presumably, and it's a small percentage of your stack because you are deep stacked. You'll notice from the blinds here, I'm not putting hand selection for that, and I know some coaches like to do that, but I don't think there's something to consider. I think more important when you're playing from the blinds. So this is purely for hands you're going to enter the pot. It's going to be more based on the opponent you have in the big blind, if it's someone that's prone to folding or re-raising you. So you'll notice I've just put not applicable, because to be honest, if you're the one opening from the small blind, you know the kind of hands you want to open or not. And it's more based on, again, like I said, the big blind. It's not going to be based on the strength of your hand necessarily. So for instance, I'm just as likely to open a Jack 8 versus a King 4 versus a pair of 10s if I know the big blind is just going to be folding out. So that's the deep stack one, which we know, I think a lot of people are quite, they have a good idea how to play deep stack, but some people don't. Moving on to the next category, this is the 20 to 29 big blinds here. Slightly tightens up a bit here. You'll notice that what's basically happened here is we've shifted the really small pairs out of the early position raises from under the gun, +1. When you've got that, if you're sitting there with 21 big blinds and you've got a pair of 2s under the gun or a pair of 3s or something like that, I just feel like you don't quite really, I'm not sure, if you're competent and you feel confident playing that and the table allows you, by all means you can open it. But I think as a rough guide, I think you would want to push, have those a little bit later position if you're going to be having them in your opening ranges. Again, the same strong hands apply. You just get that a little bit more tighter under the gun. It pushes into the mid position ranges, and the late position, I think you'd be folding out a couple more hands that you probably wouldn't be playing, just because again you come in a bit more of your stack. So 20 to 29 big blinds is an interesting one, because you're still relative. If you've got 29 big blinds, it's effectively almost the same as 31 big blinds, and you're still relatively okay. So, but you're just above that reshove territory. So yeah, you can still by all means open the hands that you like opening. Be a bit careful from early position. Still opening those suited aces from mid position. So yeah, moving on to the next category, the 11 to 20 big blinds. Now, any decent tournament player understands that this is the category where you have a lot of people say you don't want to be raised folding with this stack. I'm not one that subscribes to that theory, just because people do fold and it's worth a decent percentage of your stack. With raise sizes so small these days as well, I think you can get away with raise folding, 18, 19 big blinds, 17 big blinds. But you have to be mindful that you do lose that fold equity that when you reshove. So, but this is purely on hands that you're opening. So you'll notice now, again, early position tightens up even that little bit more. I'm saying if you've got 11 big blinds, 11 to 20. So if you're sitting there with 15 big blinds, pocket 6, I'm not so sure. What are you going to do from under the gun there? Raise, call it off. It just feels very bit spewy. If you're going to raise fold it, that's a big percentage of your stack again. I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? If you're trying to steal the blinds, is it that realistic on a full ring table? Again, these hand selection charts are based on full ring, so let's make that clear. You'll notice that there's 9 positions there we're talking. And mid position, again, we just proper tie up there. You'll notice all those low suited aces get thrown away now. It's just really tightening up your ranges there. You'll notice even late position there. Again, this no hard and fast rule. If the table dictates that you can get away with raising wider, by all means, but you'll notice that there's a much tighter range from the late position. And the reason for that is very simple. You just don't have that flexibility within your stack to be raise folding. Quite often you're going to have to be playing a flop and a continuation bet or several bets. You get to the turn and you're already committed all your stack practically. So by all means, I'm still saying raise all your, if it gets to your late position and you've got 15 bigs and you've got any ace, I still think you have to be opening those hands, just because mathematically, from a mathematical point of view, two random hands, an ace X is going to be stronger than them, and you've got position as well. So yeah, by all means, you're still raising all the ace X in late position. You still should be raising your suited kings, I think, the queen nine suited, those kind of hands as well. The low suited aces as well, by all means, you've got to be opening them, but you just throw away those offsuit connectors. So you notice there's no like 7-8 off, 6-8 offs, those kind of hands you kind of chuck away. However, I do still advocate the suited connectors, the 7-8 suited, the 8-9 suited. I just think they play very well. I think you still can open those hands personally. Obviously, you have to make a distinction here when you look at the 11 big blind stack versus, say, the 20 big blind. We are grouping them quite wide here, but I feel it's, this is a generally good guide. Now, if any of you watching this want these guides sent to you, by all means, email us at info@texashold'emquestions.com, or we can send you these copies, and they're free for you to use. Again, these charts vary person to person. These are just, if we coach you one-to-one, and we send you a hand selection chart, they'll be more catered to you. So we'll say, we know you don't really particularly like playing 3-4 suit, 4-5 suit, so you won't see them in the later position ones at short stacked territory. They can be catered to you, so again, let us know if you want them catered specifically for you. These are just rough guidelines, but basically when you look at these kind of charts, you basically think, okay, I've got 12 big blinds. The chart says I should not be opening an A6 offsuit from under the gun +1. In fact, you shouldn't even be opening from mid position if you look at that chart. So it's just a rough guide, and once you look at these guides long enough, they kind of become intuitive, if you like. You know that. And when you make a raise, or when you get a hand, even if you're being carded, you kind of have this in the back of your mind. You'll know, is this a profitable scenario for me? Because that's all the hand selection charts are there for you to know. Like, are these hands going to be profitable for me in the long run, on a random table, on this specific tournament? Do I expect to make money in the long run from opening this hand? And secondly, am I confident playing these kind of hands? Is the table conducive for allowing me to open these kind of hands? So yeah, that's obviously an important consideration. Finally, the short stack territory. This is an interesting one because you could take this, however you want. You'll notice here now the under the gun ranges all of a sudden becomes really open. Because why? Because we know that with a 2 to 10 big blind stack, you are short stacked. You're in that territory no one wants to be in. You can't raise and fold. You can't play post flop poker. So that basically leaves you with all in poker. Now, there's loads of push fold charts out there. But for the purpose of consistency, we have to put another chart in here for the really low stacks. And there's people out there that still don't know what hands they should be shoving. I see people say like, I'm not shoving a pair of twos when I've got 10 big blinds. Well, look, if you've got that short stack and you're under the gun, you've still got a pair. You've still got a reasonable chance of picking up when you've got 10 big blinds. And if you're called, you've still got 50-50 chance. So soon, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter about post-flop playability with these stacks because your only move is all in. And once you've got that, you can roughly look at the different positions and the kind of hands you should be shoving. So 10 big blinds, if you're sitting there with a king 10 suited under the gun, move it in. And conversely, if you're there in late position, you've got a king 4 suited, shove it in. So basically, you'll notice that all the ace rags get shoves in late position. Mid position, all the suited aces become shoves. Most of the paint cards, like the Queen Jack and the Jack 10, become shoves. Even King 9 suited there, you've got equity. And, this can be somewhat fluid. You'll notice the early position ones have way more shove hands there, just because, again, you're not worried about playing out of position. It's no longer a factor. All you're doing is moving all in and hoping your hand's got sufficient equity that if you're called, you've got a reasonable shot. So, by all means, shove your ace 10 offsuit in, early position, shove your ace 5 suited in mid, and yeah, I don't necessarily think it's quite as important with the 2 to 10 big blind stack to worry about necessarily the ability of your opponents, because Although to some extent, you know the really good players know the hands they should be calling from the big blind. But if you've got a solid idea of the hands you should be shoving, you're going to have reasonably good equity against them anyway. And the bad players, the beginner players will make bad folds anyway. So that's why you can get away with shoving wider. So you can certainly open up your range depending on the caliber of opponents you're playing. But again, just to summarise the purpose of this video is to understand that the key to any tournament, any cash game, anything you play, the starting point is what hands are you going to play. And when you consider all the variants of different hand selections, all the different stack sizes, the 4 different positions that you've got, again, we're not talking about hands from, you'll notice here, I've put any 2, shove them all from the small blind here. But there's a lot of ingredients to the hand. You're not just playing, you're not a tight player with a tight mentality is not just waiting for aces and kings and queens. They're waiting for specific scenario. Sorry, they're waiting for the hand selections for that stack size and position in the tournament and position in the hand. So yeah, pre-flop hand selection is very important. As you become more and more, a stronger player, they become more intuitive. You don't really need hand selection charts. I'm not a huge advocate of them. Once you're up to a certain standard, because again they're intuitive and you know the hands that you play well. And with Poker Tracker and Hold'em Manager, you can see the hands and what positions they become profitable for you. So I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions or any suggestions moving forward, do let us know. Email us at info@texasholdemquestions.com. But yeah, until next time, thanks.